Matt, let me pick on the Democrat first. I mean, that sounds like basically the Democrats sort of agree with what President Trump is doing. Maybe not how he's going about it, but certainly what he's trying to do.
Well, that's not really a change. Democrats always run for president as protectionists, and they always govern as president as free traders. You saw that with Bill Clinton. You saw that with Obama. You saw that with Hillary Clinton when she turned 180 degrees on TPP and said that she was against it when she'd been for it before. What is a change is that we have a Republican protectionist as president. That didn't exist in nature before, and so that's what's really upended the politics of this.
So Sarah, President Trump has been no secret of the fact that he's pretty hostile to some of the things that have been done on trade. It worked well with his base the last time around. If he comes up in an agreement with China, will that redound to his benefit, or will people think he's getting soft?
No, I think it would absolutely be his benefit, especially in the suburban areas. I would love to see a deal here so we can move on into election year and have this behind us.
Well, let me pick up on exactly what you said, and that is suburban areas, because we had an election on Tuesday, as you know well, Sarah, and there were some people who came on, Republicans who came on and said, we're a little worried about some suburbs. For example, around Philadelphia, if you look at some of the things that happened in Kentucky, that maybe there's a little weakness for President Trump and the Republican Party in the suburbs. Are you concerned about that?
Absolutely. I think actually I was more extreme. I think the suburbs are on fire. We need to address the concerns of the suburban, especially women like I am, and start talking to them. But we just are not doing that as the Republican Party. You talked about the suburbs of Philadelphia. Delaware County, for the first time, is on Democratic. Civil War. It goes back to the Civil War since they had. I mean, this is crazy. We need to address these. And I think going back to the China deal, if we can get a China deal, that certainly helps. And we need USMCA. We have to get Nancy Pelosi to drive that forward.
So, Matt, how much of that issue in the suburbs is more social issues rather than economic issues? And to turn it back to the Democrats, I keep asking, who is the Trump voting Republican last time around who will switch their vote based on the economy, given where we are in the economy, got really low unemployment, really low inflation?
The problem is not unemployment. People can get a job. The problem is that the jobs don't pay enough to support a middle-class life for a lot of people, particularly in bigger metro areas. 67% of people who work full-time do not have kind of a middle-class life based on what they earn and what their benefits are. So I think the biggest economic problem isn't unemployment. It's this feeling that they're running in place and that there isn't real opportunity to get ahead. I think trade deals will have a relatively marginal impact in the suburbs. They're very important in areas like Iowa and in rural Wisconsin, where farmers are acutely aware of what's going on with trade. I think suburban voters are kind of less tuned into that.
So, Sarah, this was going to be, I think, a fascinating election anyway, but now we have this little thing called an impeachment inquiry that's going to go public next week. How does it factor in? I know when I talk to Democrats in the House of Representatives, they say this is not a political issue, this is a matter of the Constitution, but it will have political effects potentially.
It certainly will have political effects, but right now we're just pleased it's coming out into the open. And what I'm finding as I travel the country talking to suburban women, they're kind of paying attention, but they're really paying much more attention to their needs as health care, the needs of education, and frankly, the Equal Pay Amendment. Those are what they're focusing on, and impeachment is kind of a side story for them.
But what does the Republican Party have to say to those people? More importantly, pointedly, what does President Donald Trump say to those women?
He's not handling that well right now. So we're hoping that he can continue to fire up his base, which he's doing, and then pivot and start talking about health care, prescription drug costs, hospital transparency, and start feeding the suburban women what they need. Because as we talked about Tuesday night, we are on fire in suburban districts, and we have got to understand this in order to try to get the House back and to hold the Senate.
So, Matt, the Democratic Party may be on fire, but they certainly are divided about health care, which Sarah just referred to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in danger, I think, in the Democratic Party of turning it from an advantage to a disadvantage. It was voters were afraid of Donald Trump and their health care. Now they're afraid that Elizabeth Warren's going to take away their insurance policy.
That's exactly right. We're about to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Right now, people are angry about how the Republicans and Trump in particular have managed health care. They've kind of taken shots at the Affordable Care Act, prescription drug prices. Nothing has happened. But it is very dangerous for Democrats to be talking about Medicare for all, and that is why we have been pushing very hard to get Warren and others to back off of that. It is absolute political poison.
So Sarah, there's some division among the Democrats about their plan. I'm not sure what President Trump's plan even is. Is there a plan that he's running on in 2020 for health care?
Not that he's talking about, but our members certainly are talking about it. First of all, Elizabeth Warren, I think, is trying to bankrupt the country. What we're trying to do as we talk about health care is, as I said, lower prescription drugs, do transparency, start to give choices to the American people on how they pay for their prescription drugs. Can they get, do they always have to go to the pharmacy? Can they do mail-ins? I mean, there's a lot of things we're looking at kind of around the edges, why Elizabeth Warren focuses on bankrupting us. Because you know what? People didn't like ACA. They're certainly not going to like the government totally taking over the health care.